Okay, so today we're here with Bryant McInnis.
Yes.
Mr. Director, sir. You know, I've known you for like over 5 years or maybe even 6.
Yeah.
And I don't even know where you were born or where you grew up. Where was it?
Oh, well, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my life experience and to tell you a little more about me. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, in Crown Heights, way back year, you want to know, 1966. My mother raised me and my brothers and sisters, and with a loving family, great family, and I couldn't ask for more. Growing up in Crown Heights in the 70s.
So, growing up in Brooklyn, I mean, when you speak to a lot of our students, it's surprising how many of them have never even been out of the borough. When was the first time that you actually got out of the state and went to another state?
Oh, at a very young, I got out of the state at a very young age. My uncle, who had the car, and my cousins used to drive us to South Carolina every summer to see my grandmother and grandfather in Bennettsville, South Carolina. So the opportunity for me to travel was early age, maybe 5 years old, if I can remember that early. For the most part, I traveled as a young man, as a youth.
And the first time you went out of the country?
First time I went out of the country happened in 1990, or early 90s, around 1990. I visited the Bahamas with Bob Lohr. He had a trip where he took people from all over the country to go to participate in different workshops in the Bahamas. So that was a great experience.
So I have this comment before I start the actual interview. It's a quote: "Mistakes are awesome. They are not failures, but opportunities for growth and transformation." How does that feed in and inform you?
Oh, all the mistakes I've made? Oh, wow. It's a transformation, definitely. I learned from many mistakes, basic mistakes, small mistakes, and large and huge mistakes. It just gives you a chance to rebound and think about what you've done and not to repeat them. So that quote is profound in terms of, and it definitely something that I can relate to.
Yeah. This past weekend when I was doing a shoot, one of the pastors said, if you want to thrive, you have to grow through what you go through, which is kind of similar to what he's saying.
Oh, exactly, yes.
So, firstly, when did the idea of directing pop into your mind, and how did you, or actually what preceded, what got you into the idea that you didn't want to think about being a director?
Okay, when I was about 9 years, not 9 years, maybe 10 years old, that age, my uncle worked for Warner Brothers. He came one day and gave me an 8mm camera around that early age. So at that age, I directed a short film with my friends of karate. Karate was big. Mm-hmm. Karate movies was big at the time. So I wrote a script and directed scenes where my friends were hero and the villain. And it started early in that sense of wanting to be a director early on.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
So at this particular point, what draws you to a particular script or a particular story?
At this age, in my older part of life, historical documentaries. I love history, and I like to incorporate history with film. The teaching aspect of it, entertaining and also teaching. But I'm big on the educational part of film.
Any particular reason for that? Because
I'm passionate about educating people, and I think education is the key. There's the golden opportunity for us for my community, my people to get to the next level. And we miss so much in terms of the texts and books that it's important for me using film as that medium to teach also.
Okay. Everybody, whether you're a photographer, a videographer, or a director, everybody has their own process. How do you approach developing your vision for a project?
My vision comes from I think the beginning is just understanding the history or feeling trying to put myself in a position where what it was like years ago. So putting myself in that time period and understanding the writing and the first person narratives of the writers or the stories of the time. So that puts me in that position in terms of trying to understand what my ancestors went through and put myself in that position. You know, it takes a mental type of relaxation or putting yourself in another role, not just being here, but transforming yourself mentally back in time and kind of visualizing that.
Right. So I know you did something, a book on Jackie Robinson. What inspired you to pick Jackie Robinson?
Yeah, exactly. So growing up in Crown Heights, Ebbetsfield was 3 or 4 blocks where I live. And again, that visualization, looking at what's there now, the big, huge complex. But what was it like in 1955 or 1957? I've tried, as a youth, to visualize what it looked like as people with trolley cars going down Bedford Avenue, players hitting a home run. So in my mind, I tried to put myself there and seeing Jackie Robinson at bat. What was it like, you know? And what was who were the fans at the time? So that's why, that's where I kind of visualized, put myself in that.
Okay, but now you picked Jackie Robinson as opposed to someone like Campanella or any of the other folks that gradually got onto the Dodgers, or even when they were in the, you know, the black, you know, baseball league.
Mm-hmm.
What about Satchel Paige? Why didn't you want to go to that
Okay,
as opposed to Jackie Robinson?
Well, Jackie Robinson set the standard in 1947 when he first came to the Brooklyn Dodgers. What he went through as the first African-American player in the modern baseball league, I used him. He was the model for future baseball. Mm-hmm. So as being the first to sign in 1947, I mean, there were players that played pre-1900, right. But Jackie Robinson in the modern era, what they call, what he set the standard, what he struggled with, I mean, the pain, you have to read his story. Called I Never Had It Made, and you see what his life was like. It wasn't the Hollywood glorification of his life. I mean, they had some sentimental moments in the movie, but the pain he went through, the suffering that he went through, and I, again, tried to visualize that and try to get him, for me, and teaching, telling my friends about him, and future, in the near future, the students about him. You know, what he went through and what his impact of his struggle and what it meant for me to not give up.
Okay. Everybody has, you know, the specific parts of a story that are the most compelling. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's the beginning, middle, end, whatever. But maybe it's just a character analysis. When you're telling your stories, what's the most compelling element that you're looking for to give or to offer to your audience?
The most compelling for me is probably the middle with the climax, the apex, when the character overcomes a situation, right? He struggles, you know, his foundation is beginning, but that struggle, at what point did he hit that climax, that peak, and say, okay, things are going to get better from here, or things are going to change from this point. So that middle portion of a story is key for me.
Is there anybody in that process along with you, or are you 4 walls and paper and pencil and recorder maybe, and that's it?
It's basically me, and you know, but I always ask, and I've learned over the years to get other input in terms of my thinking, but it comes with me. When I sleep at night, when I'm praying, or but to the point where I'm in solitude, I'm quiet, my time where I can sit back and thoughts, that creative process come to me. That's it, you know what I mean? That's where it starts. But again, I tap into other brains and people and like, hey, what do you think about this? So
when you have your actors together and you're now in the performance part where you're actually either taping or recording, there are some directors who will direct right on the spot. This is what I want to have done, period. Then there are other directors that I've heard that they give the actor kind of a general idea and let them do whatever they do. Where do you fit into this?
So my gift, I believe, is in documentaries, excuse me. My gift is in documentaries. As a documentarian, that's my strength. But just recently, I just created a film, a narrative, where I hired a director to help me so I could kind of model what his experience, learn from him. And I do of course, have a vision what I want my film to look like. But again, having someone who has worked with actors over the years, I tap into their brains, But now I think over the process, over the last 2 years, I've learned to work with actors. Just watching friends who are playwrights on stage and just being on set, Even my cinematographers, they know, what to do in the sense. I may have an idea, but again, I've learned to open up, and have other people share what's best for the project.
So the conversation, is that a conversation which is a 50-50 conversation, or is it more, from your standpoint, maybe a 75 or 80 to 20?
It changes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so the conversation between myself and the director, it changes.
No, between yourself and the actors or yourself and the camera crew.
Right. So using the team itself, right. So it changes because, again, I could give you several examples where, as I was shooting in Philadelphia, and there was a place where I wanted to shoot on set, a certain scene, but the director didn't, if I can say this, didn't agree at the moment. But I had to take more control at that particular time because I didn't want to move the location. So the percentage changes on different scenes, and the actors are awesome. The actors I've worked with, they're listening to myself or the director. But again, the control, it's not a big thing with me, but if I feel that it's right for the moment, that percentage may go up. But if I feel that if the director he may know or she may know more at that moment or a better look at the scene than I have. So I'm really open to it when it comes to narratives right now.
Do you storyboard?
I've done it, all right? I'm still learning the whole storyboard process. My storyboard takes place here first, but I have done a storyboard, yes.
So, but for most of your projects, let's say your preference, would it be to storyboard, so you have, just like when you teach, you have your lesson plan, you got your step-by-step. So, and there's the other part, which is that you shoot from the hip and do the improvisational thing.
Right.
So, it sounds like you're doing an improvisational thing right now, but would you want to do more storyboarding as opposed to improvisational things, or what?
Well, I think it's not really improvisational because we rehearse it, but in terms of the storyboard, several scenes I've created storyboards for, not the entire script. Again, talking with the directors or cinematographers, we have that conversation. So it's not always like a spot thing. Some things change as you shoot, but for the most part, yeah, I would say several scenes I've created storyboards, especially if I was not there on the set, because there's a time when I had to go away and the cinematographer, he correctly just followed the storyboard, knew what it looked like, and gave me almost a perfect, scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So from the standpoint of, I guess, mentors or people you've looked up to, which directors or films that were directed by someone influence your style the most?
There's a combination. It depends. Like Spike Lee, of course, is set a standard for me in terms of cameras, in terms of his story, in terms of his history. He's a historian also. There's a gentleman, Sinclair Bourne, passed away several years ago. There are many films that I've seen, even like Oliver Stone, who's Hollywood producer. I looked at his films many times, JFK, and that was like a standard film for me in terms of angles, in terms of dialogue, in terms of characters. So I use those, anyone that I can learn from in terms of building my skills.
So when you go to watch movies like the movie you're going to go watch tomorrow, what are you going to be looking for? I mean, you're going to see the movie, great. As a director, are you sitting there with the director's hat at the same time, or are you just there as a onlooker?
Oh, when I go to movies, I can't go to movies with some people, especially my wife, because you're like, why? You just look at it as a film. No, for me, I have to look at it as a director, as a filmmaker. and I'm looking at the characters, the intonation, the characters' eyes, their lips, their movements, every aspect of film I'm looking at, camera angles, and I'm learning more about lighting now. You know, where's the lighting coming from? But now, yeah, every angle. And I always was that way actually when I watched the film, many years, just looking at how the film is being made. So intrinsically, I dig deep into a film.
Yeah. You're not there with the pencil and paper though.
It's too dark. No, I'm not doing a pencil and paper for the most part, but you know, mentally I keep those notes in my head. But yeah, every film I go to, and that's the sad thing that I can't say sad, but from the entertainment aspect, I need to somehow watch that same film many times because the first time I'm going, again, I'm taking notes. I mean, mental notes.
Right.
And then, like, I saw the movie 688 six times, and first time I caught something. Second time I caught different things. So as I watch it more than once, I can definitely see different things. So you know, it's some you look at the acting, some looking at the lighting, the sound, different things. So that was one of my favorite movies over the last couple of years.
Beautiful. What was there about that movie that struck you so much to watch it that many times?
The history. Like I said, I'm a historian. So first of all, this is what happened. One day, like late in the fall, I'm watching a documentary on the 6888. I said, they need to make a movie about this, right? I said, they need to make a movie about this. And the next day, I saw that Tyler Perry produced a movie. So I'm digging deep in terms of their history, the impact these women had on the country, the soldiers, and we take it too lightly where we don't give women credit for what they've done. And that was a big piece of American history that was not told to us, or I didn't learn. They're not going to teach you everything, but I didn't learn about that particular part of history until late last year.
Right. There are probably lots of things which affect how you create or how you direct. I know for myself, you know, if I love watching dance, I like going to art museums, and all of these things, they affect how I'm going to interpret my next shoot or what I'm going to create next, whether it's at school or personally or with another client. What other influences do you have that will influence how you direct or how you see your next project?
I think music is a big part of it. I'm big into classical music. Now, that's another aspect of film that we need to learn. I need to do more in terms of studying, but music is a major impact of a film. So I listen to a lot of black classical in general, but a lot of black classical artists.
Okay, when you say black classical, what do you mean?
Meaning that artists who produce classical music, who are African American or black people who produce those, you don't hear about that. You don't hear about those artists, and it's many of them that produce music that was, you know, they went around the country. But listen to that. That's only one aspect. Music in church also. I love traditional gospel music in terms of it came from the soul, and they told a story, and it had a major impact on lives, you know, from civil rights movement to even before. So listening to music, that has a impact on my thinking as a director. Using film, how can I use this song in a particular scene? And that is my next big step, using music in film.
Right.
Yes.
So you said you started kind of directing when you were a little kid, doing little things here and there. And then I assume that throughout the years, you did bigger and bigger things. When did it change from being the amateur you as a director to the professional you as a director?
Well, the stage where I think it was always a passion. And first of all, it wasn't a career I wanted to go in terms of studying, but something I love to do. And I think another thing, just to add to that, another uncle showed me a film, a black and white film called Cabin in the Sky. Between that, the camera, my uncle giving me a camera, and that movie, everything came together about the history of film. So that kind of stayed with me over the years, just loving historical black film and understanding how things work. from different aspects of a director, writer. So that writing has always stayed with me as a writer. So I use that aspect as writing, as books and to screenwriting. So those two kind of came together.
So at this particular point, you've been directing for how many years?
Wow. In terms of my first full documentary was 1999. So we talking over 25 years.
Okay. So at this point, after 25 years of directing, if you could turn to yourself 25 years ago, what kind of advice, 3 pieces of advice that you'd give yourself, your younger self?
The advice I'll give: continue to study the craft. Study people who set the foundation. And like I said, I'm big on that. People who are in film early on, just study the craft. And that's the big advice I would give to anyone. Study and don't give up. Like in Jackie Robinson,
Right.
Don't give up.
Right. And so what keeps you motivated at this point?
Several things. Again, my ancestors, the historians. This is what I listen to Dr. King a lot. I listen to Les Brown a lot, the motivator. And by listening to those 2 people, one is going past and one is still here, that motivates me to keep moving. You can give up, don't give up. Dr. King set the blueprint for me in terms of his ministry, his activism, his vision for the future. He looked over the mountaintop, right? And he's seen the promised land. And I don't think that was a false vision on his part. And I think there's still a promised land. So that hope through those 2 leaders, I mean, there's many others, but if I can name those 2 as the top people I can look to in terms of motivation, and even more recent, Les Brown, because he's going through cancer for the last many years, 25 years. But again, his thing is, hey, I'm not giving up. Cancer may be in me, but it doesn't have me. So
Right.
That motivation, keep pushing.
Gotcha. So your last question for the interview. What's your favorite part of directing, and what has been the work that you're most proud of?
Oh, my favorite part of directing is being a planner. Let me go back. My first degree is in urban planning. Seeing a vision of something from nothing. And I'm gonna take a quick story how I became that way. I used to go to my aunt's house who lived in Brownsville back in the 70s. I used to live in Crown Heights. You take I think it was maybe the 3 train, and all you would see dilapidated the lots, and it was a war zone looking over outside the train. I said, I want to build this community. So using that as a vision of making things better, improving from what was there to something bigger. As a director, same thing. You have a vision of something, but you want to see something that comes together. So that connection there. So that's the greatest feeling I get as a director, having something I started, planned, it's not there yet, but then it comes to fruition that it's there, it's completed, it's done. And, and teachable moment, what people learn from the projects, from the things I've done. People have learned years later, oh, I learned this and I learned that. And that's the joy of being a director. And the second part of your question?
Is what work that you've done, which one are you the most proud of?
I don't know. It's probably outside. If it's directing, is the question related to? I can tell you that. That is probably, I probably more recently one, a collaboration with Bryant McInnis. We did a collaboration on a film with
Bryant McInnis, is that famous director in Brooklyn?
Yeah, he's getting there. He's getting there. But Bryant McInnis is a good brother, and he's expert on camera equipment, which I'm still learning. But in terms of collaboration, we did and he called me. That's what and going back, if you can rewind just a little bit, that was a proud moment for me when Barron said, "Brian, I want you to work on this project with me." when someone comes to you and say, hey, could you come help me out? Could you work with me? That's a proud moment. It's just like being a teacher. You know, being a retired teacher, you're getting calls all the time. Could you come work at my school? Could you come work at my school? That's a proud moment. When someone comes to you, that's telling you something about, they may have liked something or, you know, something that they can use your skills to put something together. So that's a problem if I can really think about that.
Why is that a problem?
Because it tells you who you are and what you've done, and that they may not say it overtly or outwardly all the
So it
time.
puts you on the spot.
Yeah, and they tell you, hey, you know, and it's not like, hey, I love your work, I love your work. You don't have to hear all of that. But once that call comes in, could you assist me or help me on a project? That says a lot, you know. And you don't need the whole line and accolades and Adam boys and pat on. You don't need all of that. But once they make that call to you, that tells a lot about you. And again, I'm not one to put myself. I love going to the festivals. I love meeting people. But deep down, I'd rather have my projects, my work shown, and people learn from them. That's the biggest accolades I get for myself. Or, you know, that's what I'm proud of. When people like, hey, you know, your project is good. I like it. So, you know, that's the most of it I can say right now. Yeah.